Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 2 of Jarviskjir Here Be Heroes. I need to press a button. There we go, and now I'm all good. Hey, how's everyone doing? You excited for another week of adventure?
So excited! Woo!
I'm ready to nearly die again because of your amazing rolls that are terrifying.
You want your cleric tank to be nearly dead
to
at
get
every
one
fight?
shot?
I'm ready to watch Barut nearly die again.
Let's be clear about this. I shouldn't be tanking, but I am.
You're the only tank. It's just like if you haven't seen the other story in Jarviskjir, the other series, they have no tank. Like, no one with any health. There's a land druid who is the de facto tank just because, I can heal myself after the fight and I have a quarterstaff. So I guess I'm in front. But they have like a wizard, a swashbuckler, a bard. They have no one who can actually like stand in a fight. So their fights either are very short or very long.
I like that distinction.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But it's always interesting to see how a D&D party learns to fight, like together, and the synergies and stuff that happens. And it's only week 2. We'll see what happens. I think there's actually no reason not to get ourselves going. So I said I was going to change the music to something less evil. This is really evil too.
You know what? We're still in a deep dark cavern.
You still are in the dark,
sure.
but
To be fair, it's not.
You were very low health.
Look.
So to recap what happened last week. Jarviskjir Here Be Heroes takes place in the north, specifically in the town of Slate Cove, where a a monster hunting guild known as the Grey Fist has operated for hundreds of years. These 3 are new recruits to that organization who were trained up, got to fight some giant wasps, and then had to do their trial, going into a old ruin known as the Ring of Haldoon that surrounds the town of Slate Cove. Most people not even knowing that it's a ruin, most people just thinking it's weird rock formations or don't even think twice about it because they're common folk. Common folk don't think about it.
Classic common folk.
Classic common folk. And the session ended off with you trying to figure out why this place exists, and the reason why you went into the Ring of Haldoon is the trial to collect a magical thing called a ley stone, and it ended up with you doing that. The camera begins with you, the 3 of you, after some fights, after spending probably around an hour potting around in this dungeon. You're trying to figure out why this place exists, who made it, what the ley stones are, how they're made, and you ended up with far more questions than answers.
This is true.
What is the game plan, lads?
Okay, so we've just searched. Oh, go on.
Yeah, go for it.
We've just searched like the.
You just
area,
basically
right?
finished searching.
Yeah.
Barut finally picked up the ley stone and put it in his bag. An item of magical energy, no doubt, that is used to. They said that you basically have one for each party. They can find out where you are with it, which is reasonable because you're going to be going off all over and around the north.
So, we have some eggs here that we still need to consider what we're doing with.
Right. I totally forgot about the eggs.
Yeah.
Says Tobias, turning around.
Yeah.
Yeah. I totally don't have one in my backpack or anything.
Yeah, but no one saw you do it because you got a good sleight of hand, if I remember correctly.
Suspicious. First things first, are we planning on resting here at all, or should we just make our way back?
I mean, I think the way back is generally pretty safe.
Yeah, you're going back through the town.
Yeah.
Safe
The
enough.
only thing I'd worry about is the 2 individuals who are outside the cave entrance. They seemed a little
Right.
weirded out with us going in. Who knows? Maybe they think we've pulled some magical treasure out of here. It might be a conflict, something worth considering. If we're not resting, though, I'm just going to use a health potion to top myself up here, since I'm in quite a lot of pain at the moment. So
That's
it's up
fair.
to you. I'm happy to use the health potion if that's what's most convenient for the group.
Can I try and sneak and like have a peek through the door?
Oh,
see
like
what's
sneak
happening
up to the
inside?
front? Absolutely. Give me
Yeah.
a stealth check, then a perception check.
Okay. Stealth I'm okay with.
Well, you
Ish.
shouldn't be terrible at perception because you are an elf, but I'm fairly sure your dump stamp's wisdom, right?
Yep. I have plus one for perception.
I mean, +1 is not -1. So,
Yeah, that's true.
you creep through the you creep through the dungeon towards the cold airflow of the entrance where the snowy wind is blowing in, and it's actually, for someone who spent most of their lives in a cave and you're much more used to the cave, actually the little bit of cold air is actually pleasant, which is, since maybe you're getting finally acclimatized to being up here in the cold surface world. But you head out there, you peek around, you don't see them there. They had like a little tiny little, camp is not the right word. They were basically teenagers just hanging around. So they had a little fire and like a little bench kind of thing. They're not there now at a glance. They're probably a little further into the town because it's a little bit out of the way.
Okay. I don't think they're there at the moment. The campfire looks like it's going out. Should be safe to at least have a peek out.
Before we do that, the scrawlings on the wall. You said it was pretty worn down last time.
It's worn down and it's also been built over, remember?
Yeah. Now, I was playing around looking at my spells again and looking at cantrips and specifically looking at this.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed it says I don't actually have to understand the language. Specifically, it doesn't
No,
say
it doesn't say that, but you actually do. Because
Do
I
you?
wrote this spell
Okay.
and I'm bad.
Okay.
But you do have to understand the language.
Okay. I mean, I do understand the script.
You do. I imagine this
So-
is actually one of those things you would try and cast that spell on it, but
Not much
you
out of
aren't
it.
sure whether it's... Actually, you can give me an Arcana check right
Sure.
now. Barut, as you go up to the scrawlings in that middle chamber and you sort of run your hand over it and your eyes roll back a little bit, as you do when you cast a law-keeping spell, you don't feel much. When you do this, you almost get the feelings of the book or the story that you go over. It's a very emotional process, especially if you're reading an emotional book or like the story of someone's life. You feel sparks of there's something here, but either because it's damaged or because it's a partial or because you don't fully understand what it is, you just don't get anything for it. Maybe, honestly, it might be because of the size as well. It might just be it's too big. You have no idea, but it doesn't seem to work. And I imagine you also try on the other things that have these scrawlings around, and it also doesn't really work.
Okay. Well, that was the thing I mainly wanted to check.
Mhm.
Now, we were given these health potions for this task specifically. Would either of you be upset if I were to drink it just in case we run into any trouble on the way back?
Given your luck, I am on board with you drinking it. In fact, I encourage it.
Yeah, okay. Let's do that then. And Ollie, it's 2d4 plus 2. is that right?
2d4 plus 2.
Okay, while he's doing that, I'm actually going to take a tooth from the big lizard.
Give me a survival roll. That's wicked good. I hope it matters.
Damn,
It
that's
did
a lot
not.
of health.
Virik, you go, and you know, it's one of those things because you're not in the middle of a combat to drink this potion, he just go, takes a little moment, sits down, he's an elf. You know, takes maybe 5 minutes or so, and that time you're like, well, you like take your dagger out and you start, you know, monster hunting this giant lizard. And it is a giant lizard, although you have definitely seen lizards like this before. Maybe the others haven't. Actually, Tobias probably has as well. It's a giant lizard, but still not incredibly strange, but still fairly big teeth. Not big enough to make a dagger out of unless you were a smaller creature, but you gather like it's like 4 fangs, like easily.
Ooh. I will take that.
Yeah. And with that,
Okay.
Barut is feeling a lot more put together. If I remember correctly, he didn't have like any gashing wounds or anything, but he was bruised, he was tired, he was struggling to stay awake.
Mostly just battered.
Yeah, at this point, your energy is regained.
Well, should we head back?
Shall we go? Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
let's get out of here.
What are we doing with the eggs?
Right, the eggs. Keep forgetting about those eggs. I mean, we're just bringing them back? Do we just want to bring them back?
We could bring them back if you'd like.
Might as well.
The only concern I have is that these are essentially innocents in this, and they will inevitably wind up being, well, either destroyed, killed, or put into a life that they would not normally otherwise have. Now, they might have that anyways in this cave. I'm not saying that it's, a righteous thing to leave them here, to live without parents, but it's more...
Maybe the others will know what to do with them.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I'm going to go back and pick up all the eggs.
Okay, fair. Just put them in your bag.
Yeah. In with the other one.
Give me a...
I might have to be a little careful with my pack.
Give me an animal handling roll.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
I love that you have a -1 to this, and I'm not doing any of this, and I actually have bonuses to those skills. And yet you're actually doing a good
Mirror
job.
was just getting bored of the conversation, was like, screw it, let's go pick this up.
You're very careful. Like the first one, you're just like, it's just an egg in your like bag. And then when you put your bag down, you're like, very carefully put the 4 eggs. I think there were 4 eggs. There might have been 3, but now there's 4. The 4 eggs into your bag. And reset it, and then very gingerly put it back on your back and start very carefully moving.
Careful.
Yeah.
Well,
Sweet.
let's return.
And then you can head back. Heading back, you don't need any kind of roll. Last time you needed a roll to get around. This is the hometown, though, of Tobias. The roll was mostly to see how easily and quickly you can get there. Heading back through, you can go more or less exactly the same way as before, aside from you're going more directly. Last time you meandered a little bit. You're like, oh, do you think I can buy this? You think, now you're just heading back. Not that this is a very well organized town. It is. There are not many big settlements like this belonging to Northmen, and it shows. Other settlements, especially Barut, who's been to many places. There's large thoroughfares where there's going to be a lot of traffic. There's planning about where streets go, especially in elven and dwarven cities. This is kind of just, no, this house is built here. Oh, and we built this other house here, and there's like a pig pen there. Yeah, it doesn't matter. There's a market right there. Here's a smelly pig pen. Oh, this is like the most used road in the town. Yeah, it's just really small because it's right next to the river and we can't like expand anymore. Like it's not planned properly.
This is one of those things that, because Bruin has been around towns that were so planned, he's trying to figure out what the method is to this and why it's planned that way. And he's thinking, well, this is just their culture. They don't overexpand, whatever. Like he's applying overly logical thoughts. To
Whereas realistically, it's just because they're humans and they don't actually plan that far ahead.
Exactly. Yeah.
But with Tobias, you get back to Kazengard, the castle of the Grey Fists, with ease, and the portcullis is raised, and you can head inside. When you start heading inside, you actually see that Hurl Giant and Kindley were having a conversation in the main chamber, and Hurl Giant turns with a big smile on his face and is like, "Ah, my new recruits return triumphant, no doubt."
I'm gonna, out of the pack, pull out the lay stone.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Well then, it is my honor to announce the 3 of you as true Grey Fists. He takes a moment to let that sink in. A little too long of a moment, but most of the people in the room are elves. so it doesn't really affect most of them.
Virik has a gigantic smile, but you can't see.
As soon as he says that, I'm gonna go for a high five with my
Yeah!
bracer.
When you do, he would absolutely give you a high five back. And it'd be one of those like high fives into like a
Yeah.
yeah. Which again, he's very strong, and you're not strong if I remember correctly, but he's
I'm pretty average.
yeah, exactly.
I'd say I'm 10 strong.
About 10 out of
10, yeah. Exactly.
but he's just it's whenever this man grasps you in any way, which is surprisingly common, it's noticeable just how strong he is. And he chuckles and laughs and goes, "If we didn't have a feast yesterday, we would have a feast today in your honor. But now, rest. I'm sure we'll have something for you to do in time. Prepare yourselves, think about what you've seen, you know," and he kind of looks at Barut. "I think he might be the kind of person to keep a journal, and probably good to write about what you've done. Someone might want to read it one day."
Well, I don't know why anyone would want to read about me, but perhaps these gentlemen.
He nods, which is not very complimentary. And it's one of those things where he just kind of runs out of steam and is like, "Well, you are free to do as you wish, but I will tell you when we have a job for you. Or Kindle will."
And what should we do with this? I'm holding up the lay stone.
But he's sort of like Kindle, who's there but was completely silent the whole time, holding her staff, just goes, "Keep it with you. You keep it in your pack. Then we will be able to see you wherever you go. Well, see the paths that you tread. Not what you do before you worry about such petty little things as privacy," she says, looking at the human.
It's just unfazed by that statement. Just
Yeah, of course.
To be honest with you, I was not worried about that.
There's definitely a look of like worry on Tobias's face that immediately goes away when she says that she can't actually. Just like, what? Oh, all right.
Elves don't have a very good concept of personal privacy, funnily enough.
You know, I don't know that Tobias would have gotten that from the first however long we've been here, where Virik and I have just been up talking most of the night.
Yeah.
You know, invading his personal life.
Kindle, we have these. We encountered the elementals. They look like newt things. Look to the others for any sort of better description. They had a nest, so
She kind of like holds the egg in her hand. They're fairly big, and she's fairly petite. So she kind of looks at it with a little bit of interest and curiosity and goes, "I recommend bringing these to Fireflies. I don't know if he'll have any interest to them or in them. Well, he will most certainly have interest in them. I don't know if there will be any use for them, but perhaps there will be in time."
put it back carefully in the backpack and do
at
it up
some point later on,
carefully.
you bring it over. And
The
then really,
adults were speaking a form of primordial, earth elemental. Wouldn't have been surprised if the original ruins were not actually dwarven, but were elemental.
they kind of look at each other a little bit. Hull Giant kind of gives like a sort of, "Ha! Look at this one, already thinking outside of the book." And Kindle's like, "Box." Saying box. That is an interesting theory. But I do not know if that serves any purpose or portent. But
Not yet.
information
But
is power.
I also might wish to spend some more time there at some point, seeing if I can decipher anything more from the primordial language, the script. It was not primordial that I've seen. It might not even be primordial, but there was script there that I couldn't understand. And as you know, I have a penchant for languages, something I quite enjoy, but perhaps something I need to delve into more before I understand fully what this place was.
She nods, like very understanding the academic pursuit of this. Hurl Giant is kind of leaving the room to go to the kitchen, and is just like, well, make sure you keep together, and so we can find you in case you're wandering off researching. Can you imagine? Like, he gets muffled by the stone walls as he keeps talking. Yeah. What is the plan for the rest of the day? Like, you left pretty early. Like, what do you want to do with the rest of your day? It's probably around noon now. Maybe a little later, around 2 p.m.
At some point, I'd want to take the eggs to Fireflies.
Yeah, when you do, he's asleep. He's the kind of person who's very much like asleep in a comfy chair in that room. So you probably just lay them very carefully on a table for him. Says the
Just like hit the table next to him.
He doesn't wake up.
Get out a piece of paper, write a note.
Yeah.
Period. And then leave.
Always leave a note.
Always leave a note.
Yeah.
I think it's entirely reasonable.
Okay.
I'm going to see how much I can find out about that script that was down there, if there's any information at all.
In like the books, in like the office and stuff. I think this is a intelligence roll. History. History is better for this one. You start your research, but you know you're looking for half of something that's very specific. So you are aware it's going to take time, and this is an elf thinking this. So you start. Most likely the rest of today is the organization for the research in the future.
Very much so.
I'm going to be reading this book at this time, these chapters.
And for the record, I will actually be spending an hour to ritual cast lore keeping to help me organize these books.
Yes, exactly.
So that they're nice and neat and tidy and organized, and my research will be hopefully smoother in the future.
Yeah, like your little corner of the room that you share has like a very neat, organized pile of books on the floor, and probably like maybe like a little rug or something where you can sit and read.
Yeah, and I would also let these guys know that they are in a very specific order and not to
do not touch. It may even say
no how hard Virik is trying to resist the urge, just go and swap some books around.
Yeah, no, I will.
He won't.
Don't do that to the nerd.
I mean, we still have a lot of daylight left, I guess.
Yeah.
So Tobias is just in like try hard mode right now. So I'm gonna just spend pretty much the rest of my day just training.
My assumption is you're gonna maybe train more with your swords than your bow.
Maybe
because you maybe realize that you might end up using your swords more often than you thought.
Especially if I end up on the ground a lot.
Exactly. So that's the thing, is like, given what happened today, it's like, okay, I feel pretty comfortable with the bow, but I'm gonna...
That's exactly what I was thinking, yeah.
Training with the swords.
You get more used to
that. Join you for the training and maybe do sparring and stuff like that.
Yeah. I could totally see you guys doing some slightly relaxed sparring for the rest of the evening. And the rest of the evening does...
I was just going to say, after I'd finished up organizing my books and taking a little bit of time, I actually would come out and join you guys, because I will also have realized that, hey, I need to be better at this combat thing.
Awesome. You know? So you spar into the night instead of like a hearty celebration or anything. You're just preparing for the next fight, because you know there's going to be a next fight. And the interesting thing with the three of you sparring each other, you have a very interesting mix of fighting styles that actually prepares you for quite a lot of things. When you eventually go to sleep or lay down, because elves don't sleep, you wake up the next morning, have your breakfast, have a hearty porridge, and maybe some fresh bread from a local bakery that probably Barut goes and gets, because he's awake very early, because Virik still doesn't sleep, but kind of has like a period of time he does nothing. Barut is productive. And just sort of sitting there together, eating, maybe Barut's even reading a little bit, when it's Kindle walks into the room, and you don't often see her in the mead hall with the rest of you. She often will take food up into her private chamber or not eat at all, it seems. But when she does join you, it becomes apparent she's not joining you for food or anything. Maybe even I can imagine Varric being like, what? You want some?
Grab a plate or something here.
And she sort of would actually wave it away and not as mean as she has been to you most of the time. And because she kind of ended up walking towards Varric, because Varric's sitting where it was the shortest route between the room and the table, we'll actually put down a piece of paper that has in common, with some elven overwriting, a contract. You never read the other contract you had, but you figure this is most likely the contracts that you're going to be taking because they seem very common to you because you've actually taken similar contracts, just more often not on monsters. And as you read it over, it is a contract to disperse via violent means or otherwise a troublesome goblin force that has been harassing the north side of town. When you read it over and maybe hand it to the others.
I would hand it off to the others after reading what we have to do. I probably wouldn't
exactly.
worry about the details
The
too
other
much.
people notice that it is issued by the name given is Corpse Flower, and it's got a seal from the Town Guard.
Ooh.
Oh, and the reward is 100 gold pieces.
Oh. Ooh.
Of course, you only get 80% of that split between a lot of you, but still.
That's still really good.
It's still a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
Which means you know it's a genuine problem. Because they brought money together. And Kinley would have been kind of silent when she puts that down. Maybe when Barut's reading it over, because he takes a little bit longer, she'll speak up and be like, I think this is a perfect job for your first day as true Greyfists.
Barut will just
Like the sound
nod.
of this?
I mean, both as a Greyfist and as a somewhat upstanding member of this city.
Somewhat.
What? I feel like it falls to us to make sure that we take care of this problem. So I'm on board 100%.
What do you mean somewhat?
What do you mean? What?
You said you...
Did I?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, you did.
Varric would actually giggle and then continue eating.
Kinley will kind of just like ignore it and be like, yes, as citizens and guests in this town, outreach of protection should be focused on here first. I will leave the contract with you. It is up to you how you continue to complete it. Just remember to bring back the tithe to the guild when you are done.
Of course.
And she will turn and leave unless you have any further questions for her.
Not for now, but I am going to give her another cheeky wink as she walks away.
She, as the rest of the times, ignores it or doesn't notice it.
Mm-hmm. We'll see. We'll see how this goes. Eventually, she'll notice. We'll see.
That's when you get the firebolt out of nowhere.
And look, fully expecting it. So, well, we should finish our meal and then why not just get right to it? We should stop by, maybe check in with Fireflies, see if he has any, anything for us to make sure we don't die. Make sure I don't die. Given that that's been the most likely scenario over the last, every single thing we've done here.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. Well, the good news is, as far as I know, goblins aren't poisonous.
I mean, they're crafty little buggers, so you never know.
This is true. One can hope.
That's true.
Yes, I was more thinking about health potions. That
Yeah,
thing.
that's probably a good idea. I like that.
Varric, you probably want to check in on whether or not he's done anything with those eggs.
Oh yeah, I totally didn't forget about that. Let's do this.
They always forget about the eggs.
Are you gonna come up with us, Tobias?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm
All
not doing anything down here. I'm done, so I'll come up and see what the old man has to say.
When you come into Fireflies' room, there's actually a lot of light in it. It's actually got a pretty big window in the room, but the light is streaming in from something else on like one of the many desks. He has an egg kind of held in like a little very dainty metal apparatus, holding it in perfect place. And there's sort of like a little crest that is glowing with light, and he's looking through it. He's looking through the light, sort of illuminating the inside of the egg. But he does actually notice you all approach. It's like, you thought you could sneak up on me, but I am still keen. What is it that the three of you need?
Potions, if you've got any, and we wanted to see what you thought about the eggs.
They're very interesting. I've never seen an elemental creature lay eggs before.
Oh.
Usually they are created from exactly what they are. You know, earth elementals are made from the rock. So on. It does lead to some interesting questions, I suppose.
Right. Such as scrambled, over easy, or omelet with gravy.
He nods very much. Like, I did have the same thought process, but I thought I would go to science and research first. But the taste test.
Sand?
Taste test is important.
This is true. They were made of sand. I don't know if you've ever eaten
That's
sand.
what this is. It's sand in there. That was
I've
getting
eaten
me
sand
very
before,
confused.
not on purpose, but it's not a good time.
You want potions? And he kind of like opens the potion drawer.
Yeah.
Or you can see that he is very clearly brewing more. You can see that he's sort of got Blue Lady in sort of decanters and things boiling up. And he ruffles through it and is like, I do not have any more currently. I had to give one of the last ones to one of our members that strolled in through the night and left. But I do have, not potions, but objects of ease. And I will try and find them real quick.
Really wishing I hadn't used that other potion now.
But it made the walk back so much easier.
You know what?
I mean, who knows? Someone could have gone and stabbed you immediately as you walked out the door.
It was a safety thing. And,
That's true.
you know.
He will hand 3 things to Tobias. 2 of them are the same. 2 of them are a sort of little leaf package. When you open it up is a Blue Lady salve. You've used these before, Tobias. You've probably, like, your mother would make them like, it scratched my leg. It's like almost like a worse version of a healing potion. It does 1d4 healing after an hour. It isn't instant.
Okay. So it's useful for if you're
taking a rest or something.
Yeah.
The one other thing is a piece of bark that looks edible. It's like soft. It seems maybe it's been treated with something. That gives 1d4 temp HP, but the important thing, and it's a bonus action to consume. The important thing about it is it can be fed to an unconscious person to revive them back to 1.
Okay.
Unconscious or bleeding. Instead of that effect, it can do both of those effects.
Yeah.
That's cool. I like that.
Minor healing items.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll put those in the old adventuring pack. And
Yeah, those are things that you already would know of and know how to use, which is maybe why he handed them to you. And I'll be working on more potions. It's been a while since we've needed so many of them so quickly. You're positively drinking them up. I should warn not to drink too many of these potions too quickly. It can lead to numbness of the mouth and worse effects. But you should be fine.
Yeah, the 2 people who drank them were just like... Still good, I think. Okay.
Thank you very much. And Bro's going to do another bow, and it's more fluid again this time. He's a quick learner. He's learning how to bow. It's not
Lyric would actually be able to show him how to bow properly because he would have been trained to do that.
Yeah. Well, properly for some places.
Some places. That's a good point.
Yeah. I would lap up that information if you were giving it.
Yeah.
But, you know.
And
It'd
then
be a thing you do on the side.
something else you could also do is maybe try and buy a healing potion somewhere, or more. These things are common. Like you could very much easily buy these salves.
Would we be able to even possibly scavenge them? Like
these are things you could also try and find in the wild. Yeah.
Okay.
You'd basically go, I want to forage for like medicinal herbalism stuff instead of like food.
Okay.
Shall we get going? We may as well. There's no time like the present, right?
I agree.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Right.
So you're gonna head off to. It says like a particular area of the town that's been harassed. Are you gonna go over there and look for clues?
Yeah.
I think what I would like to do primarily is go over there and ask around, like ask some of the local
Absolutely.
folk.
So
while you're doing that, I actually might look around for traces.
okay. Well, first of all, you got to get there.
I'll help.
Yeah.
Not you have to roll to get there. This area of the town is on the north side, and as I described before, there is the ring of Haldoon. This is outside of that ring. As you go out there, there's areas where there's everything in Slate Cove has like stone foundations and then wood construction, because you can't use stone for everything. They're not dwarves. It's a little more comfortable to have wood. Plus, it's easier, and so many other reasons. And there's areas where there's wooden stake walls because they're not inside the natural rocky walls. And there's also areas where clearly there was an interior wall, a wall that was the outside, but they built some more houses. So like they took the wood away, but not the stone. And there's like these half walls, and then it's expanded again and again and again. It's a very a much more sparse and open area where it touches a little bit more forest land. But you're going to go around and start talking to people, and you want to start looking for clues, and you want to help look for clues.
Look for clues, yeah.
In which case,
basically, we trust Tobias to actually talk to people with better luck with us not being there.
So
funny thing is, I've got a good charisma. I just don't like. I'm not good with these people.
Exactly. So
well, that's the thing.
Yeah, you split up. Tobias, you go start going around talking around. First of all, give me a perception check.
You want me to give you one?
Yes, you.
Okay, I'm good at that.
Mr.
Sometimes.
Ranger.
I'll take it.
So as you're... Dice actually blocked a roll. As you're walking around, a lot of these people are the common people that you know and you talk to. You probably even know several of them. And you go and be like, oh, what's just going on with goblins and things? And you get a little bit of information. But the thing that you notice when you're walking around is there's a person here who looks very much out of place, who you have not seen before. A tiefling, in fact.
Oh, weird, okay.
A red-skinned tiefling with horns that go pretty straight up, but he's wearing, like, proper heavy-ish armor where it's got these sort of black rings that go over red tunic and red clothing that actually fades with like sort of white and brown for like the dirt, and he has a fairly hefty sword and a fairly hefty shield, and it looks like he's kind of keeping watch around the place, actually.
Cool. I would like to speak with him at some point, but first I'm gonna ask some of the townsfolk, like, so what's the deal with horns over there?
When you go up to one of them, they're like, oh, well, he is one of the... He's not part of the guard, but he keeps an eye on this part of town.
He's been
pleasant.
Helping you guys?
Aye, yeah. He's pleasant. I mean, looks can be deceiving, I suppose.
I've been encountered with that realization all too much recently, it seems. Alright, I'll get a little information on him, I guess, and satisfied that he seems to be helping people around here.
You ask a couple of people, they'd all say the same sort of thing.
Yeah, I'll go, I'll approach him, and I'll reach out like a hand to give him a handshake and introduce myself. As I'll just go up to him, basically just say, hey, I haven't seen you around here before, but word on the street is that you've been helping these people from the goblins, or protect these people from the goblins, and I'll reach out to give him a handshake and just introduce myself. Name's Tobias. What do I call you?
He has like his sort of sword like point down in the snow, and he'll kind of push it further down into the snow where it holds up, and he'll actually shake your hand with like a thick leather sort of gauntlet. Says, "My name is Corpse Flower." It's interesting to see that the people here at least respect that I'm here for their assistance.
So as soon as he introduces himself, I just kind of like a knowing look, and I'm like, "Oh, you're the one who sent the letter." Yes, I'm part of the group that was sent by the Grey Fist to...
You must be new. I've not seen you before. It's very unsettling talking to him, because his eyes are just pure white. And
It's hard to look someone in the eye
when it's just, there's nothing there.
White. Yeah.
Also, he has fangs, like an elongated tongue. It's just very uncomfortable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, I'm glad to see that they've sent someone so quickly. These goblins have been troubling this area for about a month, but it's curious. You've dealt with goblins before, I assume. And he kind of turns his head, like looking at your bow and stuff. And Tobias, you definitely have encountered them before. They're common enough.
I've encountered the little menaces from time to time, but it seems like things have taken a turn for the worse. It's in order for them to call in the Grey Fist, things must be escalating.
Every now and again, it's no harm. These goblins, they're not killing anyone, but occasionally they steal livestock. But they're strange. They've been coming more and more over the last month, 2 times in the last week. And the thing is, they don't just steal livestock, steal food. That's very common for goblins. That's sort of their mission objective. No, they are coming here and they put a bucket of water above one of the doors in the tavern that fell on the tavern keeper's head. They painted one of the sheep's red. They've been doing strange things in the cover of night, as well as stealing food and some such. Ultimately doing very little harm aside from those that they wrong. A farmer who loses his pig, well, he might not be able to feed his son the next day.
On the one hand, I'm pleased to hear that it's not escalated to the point of violence against the townsfolk. On the other hand, it's disconcerting to hear how strange this behavior is. It would almost be funny if it weren't so obnoxious.
I agree, in fact. It's almost like I want to laugh. But I've had to scare them away. They are coming with bows and arrows. They could mean to harm at some point. Honestly, they might just be testing the defenses of the town and wanting to do much more sinister things.
True. And ultimately, that's something that cannot stand. And are my companions here anywhere within eyesight, or are they?
They would sort of be. So where you're standing is next to like the tavern of this area of town, which is basically the most outside building, because if you're going to like hunt on the north side of town, this would probably be where you come back to.
Yeah.
So you would see them poking around, but they're probably going around. Sometimes you see them, sometimes not. If you like call out to them, they can come back if they want.
Yeah, I'll chat to this guy for a little longer and kind of let my companions here finish poking around and looking at things, and then once they seem to be done, I'll call you guys over and basically just ask our Corpse Flower to explain to you what he basically just told me.
First of all, elf boys, you can either both give me a investigation roll, or one of you can do it with advantage.
I'm helping him do it at advantage, I think.
You sure you want to do that? Do you have a plus to it at all?
I have +1.
Then you want to do it, I will help you.
Oh, okay. Let me just set this up. So advantage? Okay.
Something you're very good at, Virik, is tracking footsteps in the snow. You've gotten very good at it.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where there are a lot of footsteps in the snow because this is a hunting area of the town. There's foresters, there's hunters, there's foragers. So then comes into the distinction between goblins and people's tracks and footsteps. And goblins are much smaller than people, so you start to figure that out in time, occasionally even seeing where they may have dragged a sack of loot behind them as well. Very clearly, goblins were here maybe a couple of days ago. As you're poking around, actually, as you're poking around, it looks like goblins were here maybe last night or this morning, when you're sort of poking around like trees near this tavern. There's like very near, there's like signs that they were just here, like maybe a bone with like meat. It's like you can even see the teeth marks of the goblin on the bone and stuff like that. It was like, oh, a goblin had a snack over here like hours ago.
They've been scouting.
They've been scouting.
That's good knowledge.
And that's when, Tobias leads you over to this tiefling, who...
Sorry, I think Virik wouldn't have seen a tiefling before.
No.
Most likely. So he's just like, oh, that's different. Interesting.
He wouldn't be face looks like your mask.
Yeah, so he does. He has looks like the mask, kind of. Less monstery in some ways, more in others.
But I'll introduce these two and just say these are my fellow Grey Fists here, Baruit and Virik. What did you find, guys?
It looks like the goblins were here very recently. They might have been scouting on the tree line over, and I'll point to like where it was. Found like a bone that they've been chewing on, a bit of meal sort of thing. Their tracks and whatnot.
That's interesting. They do usually come from the tree cover. That would mean they're very close by. Perhaps they're
like hours ago.
You see maybe like a moment of worry on this guy's face, and like the sword that's like a couple of inches down in the ground just like and turns it and actually starts like walking around the tavern. And you see him call in a little, like his voice booming a little unnaturally loud to the tavern, be like, "Close your doors, barricade the windows. There might be violence in the street tonight." And they do.
Okay.
As you would, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
My biggest concern about this whole thing is this seems to be very out of sorts for goblins. So what's changed in their nature?
Feel free to give me a nature roll, all of you.
Oh, okay.
One of the nature-y things I'm bad at.
Really?
Yeah, I don't have knowledge.
Oh yeah, because nature's intelligence, so like,
it sure is. I can track something in the wild. Don't ask me.
Yeah. It's the knowledge about it which is different. Yeah.
I know nothing.
I know 10 things.
It's wondering, you have encountered goblins probably the most out of any of these people, Tobias, because your home, I imagine, is in like a little forested area, a little bit outside of town, and forest goblins, they're troublesome, but even you guys don't go to the extent of eradicating them most of the time, so they just like shoo them away or something. It's Baruut who has read a lot about goblins and goblinoids. Goblins, as you know them, are the lesser kind of many races of goblins. Usually, goblins are led by something. If they're led by a hobgoblin, they can get very violent, because hobgoblins are very organized and very militant, and there's something, a very keen sign, is if goblins have high-quality metal equipment that hasn't been stolen, they are led by a hobgoblin who is teaching them how to forge, or they have a hobgoblin forgers. This kind of behavior you've never heard about before, but the typical thing that a corpse fan would explain, whether they kind of come in and they maybe steal an animal, or they steal some food from someone who didn't lock up their building properly, and this kind of town doesn't lock up buildings properly. that's incredibly common. That's what random litters of goblins do. It's like steal a little bit to survive and go away. They're not goblins by nature are not violent. They're scavengers who defend themselves and fight when they're cornered. You know, but when they're bullied into being a weapon, they are pretty damn dangerous because they're fast and a lot of them.
Right.
So this is out of normal behavior, but not even out of normal. It's weird and weird on top of weird. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So just it seems odd. Clearly, it's not completely out of their normal behavior. There are certain things that certainly seem strange, but they are scavengers. They don't, they're not necessarily violent by nature, but they are susceptible to those who lead them. So if any strange behavior is coming, it's likely coming from whatever is leading them.
So I guess we find their leader?
If we can, but...
I mean, I'd rather not put all the little bastards to the sword if we have another choice, but if that is the only option, I'm not gonna shy away from it either.
If they're not being violent, I wonder who would be leading them.
That is the question.
And as you sit and ponder, we're going to take a little early first break because I want to. And
Fair
not
enough.
because something dangerous might happen in a bit that'll take more than 10
no.
minutes.
Good.
So we will be back in around 5 minutes. Don't touch that channel button. I don't know what people say. It's Netflix everything now. It's just...
Yeah.
Don't touch
Auto
that back button.
Yeah, but... Yeah.
All right. What am I going to say?